you. On behalf of the Asian American Legal Advocacy Center, my name is Helen Poe. I'm the Executive Director. We're the first nonprofit law center dedicated to promoting the civil, social, economic rights of Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders, and Asian ethnic refugees in Georgia and the South. So thank you, press members and all of our diverse allies for joining us today. We're here to talk about the latest proposed policies in Georgia that would harm legally abiding immigrants, refugees, and all Georgians. I'm talking about Senate Resolution 1031. The sponsor is Senator Don Balfour, a Republican from Gwinnett County in Lawrenceville. This Senate resolution proposes, among other things, to strip the ability of citizens and legal permanent residents from taking the driver's license exam in a language other than English. There's also Senate Bill 404, sponsored by Senator Bill Heath, a Republican from Bremen, Georgia. And this bill proposes, among other things, to strip the right of legally abiding deferred action students from getting their Georgia driver's license. So before we get into some of the negative, I want to start on the positive. In the 8 years I've been working at the Georgia Capitol, I've seen a slow shift away from anti-immigrant legislation. I've met a growing number of elected officials, both Democrat and Republican, state officials on down to our county and city officials, who understand and appreciate the benefits that immigrant and refugee Americans bring to our state. So I want to first thank State Senator Rules Chair Jeff Mullis and supporting senators for not calling either Senate Resolution 1031 or Senate Bill 404 in rules and scheduling it for a Senate floor vote today. I think perhaps 3 years ago, these bills would have found sponsors as soon as the session would have started and moved with few hurdles. So now it's become a little bit harder. And for that, I want to recognize the hard work and vigilance of all the individuals and organizations committed to immigrant rights, many of whom are right behind me. Second, this is the negative, and as many of you know, defeat of these policies can be short-lived because the language can be slipped into other bills during this session, or be sponsored as a new bill the following session. For example, this is the 4th time we have had to fight down an English-only driver license bill, now a resolution. I want to say, targeting immigrants and refugees with misleading legislation is a short-sighted tactic by politicians who need to see the big picture and embrace the changing landscape. This type of pandering must end. So this is what we plan to do, and we urge you to join us. Most of you should have gotten this. ALAC staff is handing out special fortune cookies today to senators and their staff to not only thank them for their support, but urge them to put an end to unwelcoming legislation, whether they be continued as SR 1031, Senate Bill 404, or any other bill, this session or next. The cookie says, Georgia's fortunes grow with immigrants and refugees. Let's put an end to unwelcoming legislation. Your friends at the Asian American Legal Advocacy Center. Please take one if you don't have one already. Give it to your own House representative or state senator today and talk to them about why these types of policies are bad for Georgia. I also want to say, for the Twitter-minded people, please also take a photo of this and tweet, Instagram, or Facebook the photo with the hashtag Georgia Fortunes, GA Fortunes. We'd love to see them, and also the faces of legislators that you give your cookie to. So please consider doing that so we can collect it all and show that, hey, this might work. Second, I want to show you guys, we are delivering a packet and speaking directly, we hope, to Senators Balfour and Heath today. And it includes a letter from ALAC signed by 32 organizations asking for a stop to both bills, and a petition that's been signed by more than 1,800 individuals in less than a week, all of whom stand opposed to both legislation. So we plan to deliver this, and at this time, I want to recognize Ms. Tylee. There she goes. Ms. Tylee and members of the Vietnamese American community of Georgia, who led the petition signing efforts this weekend in Norcross. I want to introduce Ms. Tylee by saying she's a U.S. citizen, a voting Republican, and is someone who represents the many
với một cái tình cảm thân thương để chung sống và lập nghiệp tại đây.
We choose to be in Georgia, to be building a relationship with everybody here, to build our career and a good relationship with everybody here in Georgia.
Với những cái đạo luật chúng tôi rất là thi hành, nhưng có những cái đạo luật mà chúng tôi cần xin được thông qua, như trường hợp chúng tôi đến đây không biết tiếng Anh.
With a lot of bills that we agree to pass and agree to accept, but certain bills we do not accept because we would like to have our voice heard.
Cho nên nghị quyết 1031 sẽ không cho chúng tôi được thi bằng lái bằng tiếng Việt.
And the bills SR 1031 do not allow us as a non-speaking English having a driver license.
Cho nên chúng tôi xin được thông qua nghị quyết này để tiếp tục cho chúng tôi được thi bằng tiếng Việt Nam.
And we would like to have this bill not passed to give us a chance to have a test written in Vietnamese that we can actually take it as a driver license in Georgia.
Đó là cái nguyện vọng mà những người tị nạn của chúng tôi để định cư tại Hoa Kỳ này.
Those are our dreams as an immigrants that is came to Georgia as a Vietnamese.
Đó là ước nguyện mà chúng tôi xin được đại diện cộng đồng người Việt quốc gia ở đây mong mỏi được thông qua nghị quyết này.
And those are our dreams, and that's what we would expect and would like to the legislature to be accept that to let us have a non-English test that we can take as representing the Vietnamese American community of Georgia, representing our community.
Xin kính chào tất cả quý vị.
Thank you very much, everyone.
And Ms. Tiley, you're a good driver, right? Yeah, that's right. Okay, one more thing before we go to our next speakers. Beyond fighting state legislation, obviously we must all come together to push for comprehensive immigration reform. Please join ALAC as we work with national and local partners to ensure not only passage of some form of federal immigration reform, but passage of policies we believe are most beneficial to our country. So now, without further ado, I want to first call leaders that represent the different community members who would be most impacted. First, I'd like to call Jeffrey Tapia, CEO of the Latin American Association.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. The Latin American Association urges and hopefully thanks our state leaders who are preventing the punitive measures of Senate Bill 404 and Senate Resolution 1031 from advancing. We are grateful for their understanding that such bills do not protect, rather they undermine the well-being of our families, our economy, and our state. It is unimaginable that our state would stop lawfully present, law-abiding, young adult immigrants, battered spouses, and victims of crimes, all of whom have legal authorization to work in this state, from studying, from working, from volunteering in the community, from driving to the grocery store, the doctor, or the church, as Senate Bill 404 and Senate Resolution 1031 will propose to do. These types of bills, which we have battled almost every year over the past 2 decades, are based on unfounded fears and misconceptions about immigrants and refugees, particularly those most vulnerable in the community. These bills do not contribute to national security. They do not promote community. They do not grow our economy. Instead, we need real solutions for our economy and for the millions of immigrant families who have lived, worked, and contributed to this country for years. Fair and just comprehensive immigration reform must be passed at the federal level in lieu of state attempts to intervene in federally mandated our communities, our economy, and our nation's values. Thank you for supporting all of Georgia's communities.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Next, we have Gloria Kalenko, representing Women Watch Africa.
Good morning, everyone, and I want to thank you all for taking the time to come to this very important press briefing. My name is Gloria Kalenko, and I represent Women Watch Africa. I stand here to express concern and gratitude on behalf of the refugee and immigrant community that I serve, and to say a very big thank you to all the businesses and elected officials who stood their grounds to say we do not need this type of legislation anymore. Georgia is a state that we think welcomes immigrants, and we should make Georgia an enabling environment whereby all refugees and immigrants who have come to Georgia to stay are received with gladness and hospitality. Immigrants and refugees make a lot of contribution to this country. We own businesses, we are employers, we have come to stay, and we have been able to place our mark to show the things that we bring to the table. And as such, we are worried why we have to dissipate energy fighting all these anti-immigrant legislations that takes us nowhere. So we want to make one more appeal to say, this is not the time for us to go back and begin to tear ourselves apart. It is a time for us to unite. There is no color in our blood vessels if we begin to cut them open. We all have the same color. There is no designation of an immigrant in anybody's blood vessel. We are all one, and we are all creators of God. And as such, we should work and unite. Having said that, I want to take the opportunity to talk about the value of passing a federal comprehensive immigration reform. Africans were brought into slavery into this country, and as such, a part of the visa lottery, the DV lottery visa, was granted to Africans and the Caribbeans, from where we have less countries of immigrants coming into the United States based on the distance from the US. And some of the sections that are being proposed in the immigration reform are one that will put an end to the visa lottery. And we say no to this, and we are asking for common sense immigration reform that is not going to remove the benefits that are currently being enjoyed, but one that will come with a legislation that will create an enabling environment for all refugees and immigrants that have come here. Once more, I want to thank all of you for being here, and I want to thank our legislators and all the businesses for putting their feet down to say no more to anti-immigration legislations. Thank you.
Thank you, Glory. Next, I'd like to call up Pania Mixon, Executive Director of the Refugee Resettlement and Immigration Services of Atlanta.
Thank you, Helen, and we are so happy to be here today. I'm Pania Mixon. I'm the Executive Director of RESA. We are a refugee-serving organization, and we are part of a coalition of refugee-serving organizations and community organizations working in refugee communities. I first want to express our gratitude for all the elected officials and businesses who have come out against SB 404 and M1031. Like other speakers who have been up here, we have seen this kind of legislation before. Georgia has a long history of welcoming refugees, and we have the distinction of having one of the highest early self-sufficiency rates for refugees in the country. There are over 200 businesses in this state that depend on refugees as a vital part of their workforce, and any bill that prevents hardworking people from getting to work is not only bad for immigrants and refugees, but is bad for the state and bad for the state's economy. So, thank you.
Thank you, Katia. I next want to bring up Joseph Fonte, Santillon, and Mitzi Calderon, the Georgia Dream Team.
Custodian, Mr. Calderon's right behind me. I'm a student representing the Georgia Undocumented Youth Alliance, and which we all come into a super group called the Georgia Dream Team. I am pretty angry at these bills, SB 404 especially, because I was brought here as a 9-year-old from Mexico, and I've lived here 16 years of my life, and I want to believe that I feel like an American. But whenever I hear about these bills that come out, Georgia sends the Georgia legislature sent out the wrong message, telling us that they don't want us here. So I'm here today, as with my peers, to make sure that this bill does not get amended into anything else. And pretty much I want to watch it die today. So I don't have to worry about this tomorrow. I don't have to worry about moving to another state with more favorable laws. And I want to thank everybody who has been calling and everyone who has been showing support to us. Thanks very much.
Hi, like he said, my name is Minty Calderon. I am 22 years old. I am originally from Mexico City. I came here when I was 9 years old, and I've been living in Georgia for about 12 years. SB 404 really bothers me and hurts my feelings just because for a moment I felt safe when deferred action. When I actually got my deferred action, I had to go through a long process. I had to go to a lawyer, pay a lot of fees in order to have my legal status now. So it's like now they want to take that away from me, and I really don't understand why. You know, I want to go to school, I want to go to Georgia State, I work, so how am I going to get to work in order to earn money to get my degree? They also charge us out-of-state tuition, so it's kind of like they really don't want us here, and it really does bother me because I want to be a social worker in the future and help others. So it's like they're preventing others like myself from helping the state as a whole. So I just want to really ask them to stop these hateful bills and to just put an end to it. We're tired of it. We're not going to take it anymore, and we're going to fight for it. And if it does get amended, then we're going to definitely take a legal action. And this will not be the end of it. And I just want to thank everybody who came out today. And like I said, this is not the end of it. We're going to keep fighting for our rights because the right to drive should not be denied to anybody, regardless of the legal status. And that's what we stand for, and that's what we believe. So thank you.
Next, I want to call up Helen Butler, the Executive Director of the Coalition for the People's Agenda.
Thank you, Helen, and to everyone here. I'm Helen Butler, Executive Director of the Coalition for the People's Agenda, convened by Dr. Joseph Lowry. And we're here as a civil rights community, as a human rights community, to say that we are happy that our legislators have taken a positive step for a change and have not passed this legislation. We want to be sure that America was founded on the principle of give me your tithe, your poor. It was had open arms for immigrant communities. All of us came from different places. So it's time for us to just put aside the bickering and let's do the right thing to make America and Georgia what it should be, a welcoming country, a country and pass immigration reform that will really make us all thrive as a wonderful community united as members of the United States of America. And as the civil rights community and as a human rights, we believe this is the right step to take. So we applaud them, let it die. We want to welcome everyone here to be a contributor to our economy, to our education system, to the general good welfare and life in the state of Georgia. So legislators, continue to do the right thing.
Thank you, Helen. And I want to, more and more businesses have become more public about their opposition to anti-immigrant bills, and we're deeply appreciative. Today we have 3 speakers representing business and workers. First, I'd like to call up Mr. Andy Kim, who's the president of the Korea Southeast U.S. Chamber of Commerce.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Andy Kim. I'm president of the Korea Southeast U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and established in 1991. Well, before I start, I'd like to express my sincere appreciation to Helen Kim and her staff at ALOC, who's passing cookies, to organizing this wonderful occasions to express concerned voices to the Georgia state politicians. Well, let me ask you this question to all of Georgia politicians. 3 questions. First, do you want more jobs to create here in Georgia? Do you want more investments to Georgia? And lastly, do you want to have a more global business opportunities here in Georgia? I bet you most of you are going to say yes to all these 3 questions. But did you know that Georgia has more than 3,500 international facilities? And additionally, more than 70 countries have a presence in Georgia through the consulates, honorary consulates, and trade commissions and investment agency here in Georgia. And Georgia companies export to more than 225 international territories and imports from over 200 countries all around the world. And in fact, there's an international trade taking place in at least 86% of all Georgia's counties. I bet you your district is part of it. All right. Well, since I'm a Korean American and then also representing the Korean Southeast U.S. Chamber, but just to let you know that Korea is a very important investor in Georgia. And in fact, among the Asian investors in Georgia, it ranks as Georgia's second largest investors in overall number of facilities, number of manufacturing facilities, employment in this state. And Georgia is a home of more than 55 Korean facilities representing over 40 companies. And 36% of them are manufacturing facilities. These facilities employ more than 7,000. Yes, Georgia created this many jobs due to Korean companies' investment here in Georgia. The largest Korean investor is Kia. And Kia has announced they're going to put $1.6 billion over the next 16 years to the Georgia. And investment made by the Korean companies touch our daily lives in every single angle of it, like the home and businesses, food, transportation services, and electronics, banking, and automobiles. And last year was the record year for Georgia. Import-exports amount, it was over $100 billion. That is, Korea is one of the top of those that trading. Well, recently, in January, Governor Dill expressed that Korea-U.S. free trade agreement really helped out the Georgia economy. And that was one of the grassroots that Georgia using it to create this kind of economy for the Georgia. And I'd like to express that most of the top 10 Korean conglomerates companies have a presence in Georgia, such as SKC, Doosan, and LG, Hyundai, and Heavy Industries, Hanjin, Kumho, Kia Motors, and more. You know, a lot of delegations and making lots of trips to Georgia to run these companies and then find more investments. And then some of the staffs or the executives stay here in Georgia more than just a couple of days or weeks. Sometimes they have to stay months and months and months of time to do their work. Luckily, Georgia passed the Korea and U.S. drug license to honor that. However, international drug license does not go more than 1 month, 30 days to use it. So these people have to have some difficulty to obtaining drug license. Why drug license is important? As you live in this country, the automobile is like your shoes. You have to have the automobile to move around most of the places here in Georgia. Where back in Korea, like in New York City, public transportation system is widely provided so that you don't really need a car to move around quite a bit. So the family members come along with it, and they need the drug license. Why we provide some of the convenience to those people who need it is why. I mean, those systems, the process is already existing in Georgia. Georgia doesn't have to spend all of the tax money to create these kind of services from the scratch to provide it. It's already here. Why you want to destroy it? Well, I want to show you this. That this is Alabama here. This is the Georgia picture. And Alabama have more than 60 companies. Well, Hyundai moved in there first. But however, Kia moved in, but still a lot of companies going to Alabama. And then also, recently, Tennessee acquired a Hankook Tire to build in Clarksville, Tennessee. So those monies and jobs going to elsewhere. Well, if we were to look at this, a little bit of small designs. Yes, you can see all different pictures individually, and all the things is not the same. However, if we create it, it's a mosaic, it can create something beautiful pictures. And that's what we're here for. And lastly, I'd like to ask these questions to those of you who are supporting this English-only bill. If you want those jobs to go away, if you want those investments to go away, if you want those global business opportunities to go away to elsewhere besides Georgia, take your choice. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Andy. More and more our Asian, Latino chambers and bigger chambers are connecting the dots. You can't ask for our business and then not ask for the people and families. People run businesses. You're going to make it hard for the people, you're just not going to have the business. Thank you so much, Andy. I'd like to bring up next Mr. Alejandro Paz, the president of the Latin American Chamber of Commerce of Georgia.
Good afternoon. We're here because we oppose and are very concerned about any legislation that targets immigrants. In this case, Senate Resolution 1031 and Senate Bill 404 seem to have failed to move forward in the Georgia Senate, which is a welcome change. We would like to thank the Senate leadership and the many senators who have put the interest of Georgia first and have opposed these two proposals that, if they had been approved, will have sent a message of unwelcome Georgia. The Latino business community and the business community in general feel these type of policies attacking legally present immigrants and refugees who live in Georgia are affecting our state economy and have a negative impact by sending a message to potential investors that they are not welcome in Georgia. Which, if you think about it, is contrary to the efforts of government agencies led by the Georgia Department of Economic Development, who has a presence in 12 countries and other private organizations and chambers of commerce throughout our state that are working very hard to convince companies abroad to invest in Georgia and create jobs. One of the greatest assets our state has is our immigrant community, which contributes to our economic engine and reputation as a global region. Immigrants are more likely to start businesses and create jobs in their cities. No one can deny the many contributions of immigrant business owners to the economic growth of our state and our metro region. Immigrants contribute to a dynamic labor force and spur economic growth, helping some key industries in our state remain competitive. Immigrants and Georgia's international business community have been critical to keeping economies vibrant and strong. Immigration is a federal issue that needs to be addressed and solved at the federal level, and we all should be directing our efforts in lobbying Congress to move forward with immigration reform as the Senate has already done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alfonso. I apologize. We just have a few more speakers left, but I first want to give it back to Courtney McFarland, who is with the Caribbean American Association. I apologize. Courtney.
Thanks, Ellie. I really appreciate it. First, I want to thank Ellie and the wonderful bringing this issue to the forefront. Again, my name is Courtney McFarland, and I'm the Caribbean American Manager. Today we're here calling in for both anti-immigration legislation, Senate Bill 404 and Senate Resolution 1031. First, I want to share with us a little story with you, and I'd like to take you back into history. On Saturday, January the 11th of this year, Caribbeans and Americans all over this great country celebrated the 257th anniversary of Alexander Hamilton, the greatest immigrant of all time. Alexander Hamilton came to this country at the tender age of 70 years old from the island of Nevis, the Caribbean. And New York gave him an opportunity to become a freedman. Hamilton took that opportunity and went on to become one of the key founding fathers of the United States of America. He also went on to become the Chief of Staff of General John Washington, one of the most influential interpreters of the United States Constitution. On July 12, 1787, Hamilton, this immigrant, became the first U.S. Secretary of the United States Treasury. There he founded the financial system that we now call Wall Street. Alexander also founded the United States Coast Guard. As Secretary of State, Alexander was the primary author of the President George Washington administration economic policy. The funding of the state's debt by the federal government. He established a national bank, a system of tariff trades that led to the founding of the South Coast Guard I spoke about earlier on. He opened trade with Britain and actually the world. 242 years ago, the state of New York chose a chance on this great immigrant named Alexander Hamilton. It was good for New York then, and it was good for America. Today we ask the state of Georgia, our legislators, to also take a chance on immigration. We believe it's good for the state of Georgia, and we believe it's good for America. Senate Bill 404 to drive deferred action for child action. Youth with legal status and right to obtain a driver's license is bad for the state of Georgia and it's bad for America. We have a broken transportation system already here in Georgia, which needs fixing. So we don't want to get caught up into the situation that's happening right now in the state of our zone of more litigation. Resolution 1031 requiring the state driver's license given in English only and to amend Georgia's constitution to declare English the state official language. English is already an official language of the state of Georgia, but there are concessions that the DOT has made that the exam is also given in other language. Immigrants and Americans share the same dream. They want to make America greater. We want to find sustainable immigration solution that can make all Americans equal. We need to fix our broken immigration system to make Georgia strong and the nation stronger. The solution to fixing Georgia's broken immigration problem is simple. Let us work together to make Georgia good. common sense immigration bill that will strengthen Georgia's economy and strengthen jobs. Common sense immigration reform bill that will support innovation, encourage job creation in the state of Georgia. A common sense immigration reform bill that will increase workers' income, resulting in new state and local revenues. A common sense immigration bill that will contribute to the recovery of Georgia's housing market. A common sense immigration bill that will strengthen Georgia's technology sector. A common sense immigration bill that will strengthen Georgia's tourism, focusing on the counties and the cities' tourism initiative. In fact, there are studies right now that show that Georgia and the stakeholders of the great state believe in comprehensive immigration reform. I want to thank you very much.
Press conference. The Georgia AFL-CIO represents over 204,000 union members and their families in the state of Georgia. As a practical matter, government, public schools, the courts, and other institutions must adjust to the realities of people that they serve. Newly arrived immigrants, even some who have lived in this country for years, might fail to acquire fluency in English, but still have made tremendous contributions to the American society. Georgia's interests can best be served when all members of our society have equal opportunity, plus the mastery of the second or multiple languages, and can exercise their rights and responsibilities in the electoral, legal system, social services, and health care. The AFL-CIO also urges expanding public funding for adult education programs in English as a second language, because isolating immigrants and American-born citizens who are not fluent in English leads to exploitation and discrimination. New Americans are going to have to learn English if they want to compete. English is still a powerful language around the world. In an era of modern communications, Americans who think that the English language needs a law to bolster its position portray a strange lack of confidence in the influence and appeal. English is already our common language. And when it comes to SB 404, imagine trying to be a working person in Georgia and not to mention Metro Atlanta without a driver's license. Imagine being an employer outside of Metro Atlanta, hiring someone who's relying on our public transportation system. Imagine being a young person who is a caregiver to his or her older family members. These kinds of resolutions that have been presented in bills, they don't move Georgia forward, they only take us back. And they are senseless, and unfortunately, they're mean-spirited in many ways. The Georgia AFL-CIO is proud to stand with our friends in the immigrant community, and we're honored to be here today in this fight. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Now we're going to go to our wonderful elected officials. And first I'd like to ask Mayor of the City of Clarkston, Ted Terry, to come up. And Mayor Terry, I'd like to present to you one of our fortune cookies.
Thank you, Helen.
Talk loud. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ted Terry. I'm the new mayor of the city of Clarkston, Georgia. How many of y'all watched the Academy Awards last night? I did. I watched all of them. Last night there was a few films that were awarded and nominated. One was a film depicting the story of an American man who was tricked into slavery in the mid-19th century for over 12 years. Won several Best Oscar awards. This film was a stark reminder of our country's past sins and a new lesson for a future generation to understand. Sadly, while slavery was mostly eradicated from this country in that century, the pains of modern-day slavery still exist in numerous areas around the world. Another film up for several awards was based on the story of Captain Phillips. and the hostage crisis that happened several years ago off the Somali coast. Another reminder of a part of the world that has been at war for almost 3 decades and is still in conflict. Another film depicted the story of American soldiers behind enemy lines in the current conflict in Afghanistan. Also, in that story, a telling of how Afghanis supported and helped out the American soldiers and the coalition during this conflict. What's important to note about these films is they tell stories of areas of our past as well as current present day that do not have peace and tranquility or freedom. And that many of these people from different countries who speak many different languages have been rescued by the United States over the past 3 years through our refugee resettlement program, and many have come to the city of Clarkston. Some of you are familiar with our small town already. We're between Stone Mountain and Decatur, and our city boasts an amazing array of diverse cultures. And we've actually been cited as one of the most ethnically diverse square miles in America. Clarkston is home to a diverse population that represents 40 different nationalities, speaking 60 different languages, mainly because we have been a refugee resettlement zone for over 25 years. Indeed, this program was conceived not only as a charitable act for innocent and displaced people, but more specifically to aid the people who our enemies have marginalized, persecuted, tortured, and terrorized. Whether it was Nazis, communists, or modern-day terrorism, our country has cemented new ties to new allies and new Americans whose cultures happen to be very diverse, speak different languages with this gesture of kindness to those who would otherwise be forgotten. Folks who are victims of human trafficking, modern-day slavery, survivors of torture, and folks who helped out the coalition during the Afghani and Iraqi wars who have been targeted otherwise by extremists had they not been rescued. They're welcomed into our country and state not with a handout, but with the goal of self-sufficiency within the first year of their arrival. That means getting an apartment, getting a job, getting transportation set up. This means also filling out all of the paperwork that is required to come to Georgia as legal immigrants. There are many services available for new arrivals to learn English once they get here. However, new languages do take time, and in the meantime, the #1 goal is to become self-sufficient. And I think you've talked to many refugees. They want to not be a burden on their new country, but they want to be a part of our culture. It is vital to the future success of new refugees and immigrants to Georgia to have the option to understand the laws of our state and local communities in the language of their country of origin. The hard data and the anecdotal stories we've heard today are clear. Welcoming refugees is not only good humanitarian practice, but sound economic sense as well. I, for one, am grateful for the resettlement agencies, the state refugee program staff, and the Federal Office of Refugee Resettlement for the outstanding job they have done to work with communities like Clarkston in recent years to make Georgia a prime example of how the resettlement process can be a win-win for our state and our local economies. And I call on all of our state legislators to work with the local cities and continue to make this transition from refugee to new American as welcoming and efficient as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you guys can still hear me. I don't know what happened to the mic. Our final speaker has been a fierce advocate for immigrants and refugees for the 10+ years he's been in office. To give the final remarks is Representative Pedro Marie.
There we go. That's the way to do it. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I want to thank the Asian American Legal Advocacy Center, ALAC, and especially the over 30 organizations that are presented here today by signing the joint letter denouncing Georgia anti-immigrant policies. Since becoming a state representative in 2003, I have seen my colleagues continually target and harass immigrants with legislation based on fear, ignorance, and hate. When we should be concentrating on our economy, our citizens that are still unemployed, and our foreclosure rates. We're here today trying to adopt English-only legislation and deny the right to drive to our dreamers, which have legal presence. The lack of human decency and compassion and the total disregard for basic human rights is deplorable and should not be tolerated in Georgia. We blame immigrants for everything, yet every day exploit their labor for our own personal gain. Will SB 404 and SB 1031 does nothing to improve the state of our economy, nor not improve healthcare, education, or transportation. It is meant to sound good on the campaign trail. I represent Gwinnett County, which has one of the most diverse populations in the state. To my knowledge, the majority of automobile accidents are not caused by limited English proficiency or by the deferred action student. If the author of this bill truly want to make our roads and highways safer, why they don't support programs that champion greater resources for local enforcement to serve as a deterrent to speeding, driving under the influence, texting while driving, or other activities that lead to automobiles accidents. Our governor and business leaders are constantly looking for foreign partners so that we can expand our markets, obtain new investment, and position Georgia as a global economic leader. Legislation like SB 404 and 1031 insults those companies and countries we're trying to establish relationship with. More so, it insults many Americans and legal residents who do not speak English well. It does not advance our global economy interests, and it certainly does not represent our values and ideals. We have a chance to support public policy that values workers, allows access to education, seeks to reunify families, prevents the exploitation of labor, establishes an immigration system that is efficient, fair, and again recaptures the true spirit of our nation. The soul of our state is in jeopardy of being irreparably broken. Our policies are destroying families, uprooting communities, and destabilizing economies. I hope the fortune cookies that are being distributed today make our senators lose their appetite for more anti-immigrant legislation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, press, for joining us. Several of us are going to go up right now. I presented in session.
Both of them.
Yes. And we're going to try and call up to the room Senator Don Balfour and Senator Bill Heath and deliver the petitions and have some of the people that would be most effective